Greetings, good listeners. Been a minute since I've been on YouTube. If you don't know me, I'm Shanga, multiverse historian and showrunner of the Ancestors Writers Room. Today I'm offering a video on the topic of the infamous fear of being seen witch hunt wound. And this is also a note for survivors of stalking and what it means for us survivors who are carriers of ancestral wisdom to be loved out loud and in public. So in the process, I'm also going to offer some thoughts about what is the role of the ancestral artist in today's times amidst, multiple escalating genocides. Trigger warning. We're talking about survivor stuff, stalking, obviously, some mention of sexual violence, rape culture, consent stuff. Also want to do a quick image description for folks who are blind or low vision. I am a femme-presenting, genderqueer person. I have thick black hair. It's a little past my shoulders, brown skin. I'm South Asian, Bengali, wearing a mint green jumper, glasses, and there's a purple wall behind me. Okay, so again, for those who don't know me, I work with a unique technology in ancestral artistry called open heart surgery storytelling. It's specific to me and my lineage. So what I do with this is I share episodic storytelling on my podcast, Otherworldly Giants, the Divination Channel, which is magical reality TV for the revolution, or a true life multiverse podcast drama about a queer witch and her two black cats in life and afterlife, and her future partner, and the world of freedom that we are collectively dreaming and birthing into life. So what I do with open heart surgery storytelling is I go into stories that I write or that others have written sometimes, but with mine especially, I go into them and I open them up. Open heart surgery. And so when I open them up, I unlock the ancestral teachings, the collective divination, the energy healing, and the spell casting that is embedded in each story. And there's so much in just one story that you could unlock it for days, for months, for years, truly. You can keep returning to it and find more liberation codes unfolding, more energetic knots untangling, more healing that just keeps on giving. So I just dropped a new episode on my 40th birthday that just passed on June 13th. It's a supersized birthday special episode. It's called I Know Her, the Wolf Who Stopped Time. And I don't know, I love all my art babies, but this is one of my best creations yet. I'm really proud of it. But so today, I'll be unlocking some of the ancestral teachings in that episode. Okay, and the one kind of topic that is flashing red right now, like an aching and raw sore, is this topic of the dangers of public visibility, and why someone like me would stay in hiding and social isolation for so long, and how that connects to my experiences of surviving stalking. Okay, so in this episode, we follow our protagonist named Shanga, no relation to me, and the wolf who stopped time. And so they're traveling around this yellow brick road of the Emerald Mountains. Not the Emerald City, the Emerald Mountains. And in this story, she meets a witch on each direction. So like the wicked witch of the west, the north, the east, and the south. And so when she meets the witch on the south, she must confront a lot of issues that exist on this direction, i.e. the realm of the physical, the material, including the struggle around not being able to pay her bills. Again, no relation at all to me. So the witch of the south says, Shanga, what are you still doing here in the underground where nobody knows your name? Your money will never flow unless it's shared with the world amongst the people. Your medicine is rich. It's loud. It's rambunctious. It needs to be seen and heard widely. Okay, so this is speaking something specific to me and important about who I am. And I want to throw back to my friend Raven, who has always said this about me. Raven has always said, Shanga, you're inherently famous. I'm like, what? You're inherently famous. Like when you have 20 followers on Instagram or when you're performing in front of, big audiences, you don't get a choice in the matter. It's just who you are. So Raven's been saying this to me for like over 12 years that we've known each other. And at first I was like, huh? And it took me a while to understand what she meant by that. But essentially, I'm starting to understand that the essence of my creativity, my self expression, my healing, and my erotic energy, it's big. It's massive. My business is literally called Otherworldly Giants. Okay? That means that when I give out this expression that I have and let it just be itself, it is so big that it needs to be received, held, engaged with, and eventually given back by the world at large, by a huge collective. If I tried to truly express the fullness of what I have to give in individual or even small group relationships, it would be too big. It would break the ship. It would, and it has, right? Because that small container was never meant to solely care for something that needs to be cared for by the world, by a large collective, right? This is the true nature of fame. And it's funny because I make fun of this in this podcast episode. There's a scene where my future partner and I are joking around and we're saying like, okay, we have to rely on spiritual coaches to save the world. But the minute a coach gets a taste of fame, they sell out immediately. We're doomed. Okay, so it's a joke. There's nothing about fame that is inherently toxic. There's nothing about fame that like makes you sell out. Fame is kind of like Jupiter, right? It magnifies what's already there. So it's what we have done to fame and how we've funneled fame in industries that are built on genocide, such as Hollywood. That's what makes it toxic, and how we recreate those dynamics in our communities. That's what makes it toxic. So fame itself, as an ancestor, think of fame as a benevolent spirit, a primordial ancestor in the universe. It's a sacred part of the universe. It's the 10th house in astrology. It's not good or bad. Public visibility, it just is. And so when you boil down the sacred nature of fame, it's just that. It's someone who has something to give that is so big that it needs to be shared with the world in order to be properly held. And that's why so many healers and artists are being asked right now to confront this fear of being seen wound, the witch hunt wound, right? Just about every magical person and their little dog too knows something about that, right? Because we are being asked to grapple with this thing that we have inside. Call it ancestral artistry, call it medicine, call it healing, that we want so badly and we need to give to the world, especially now. But to do that, we need to confront all the things that would stop us from doing that, the things that we do and don't have control over. So when the witch of the South tells me, Shanga, you're always going to be struggling with money until and unless you just allow yourself to shine, be famous, be seen by a lot more people, let go of the pot of medicine and let the wind blow it through the collective. So the question is, why hasn't my medicine done that thus far if it's inherently famous, right? Like, why? I'm 40. Why do I keep holding it back? Or even as I wake up every day wanting so bad to share it, wanting so bad for it to be seen, doesn't happen. Why? Okay, so a depoliticized spirituality will talk about this fear of being seen wound like it's some ye olden days primordial fear, and it's just about like working through your personal fears around like people pleasing and fear of being disliked and fear of upsetting people, which, don't get me wrong, I'm very afraid of all of those things. But it ignores the fact that people with this wound like people experience this wound very differently based on race, class, gender, etc. And for some people, upsetting people could actually mean physical violence, job loss, home loss, even death. For some people, showing up fully in your magic can result in incarceration, right, including psych wards, loss of access to life saving resources, heightened surveillance, police brutality, social ostracization that can result in dangerous levels of social poverty and isolation. It can lead to intimate partner violence. It can lead to sexualized violence, harassment, ongoing breaches of consent, including things like stalking. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about my history and experience with stalking and being stalked, because it's one of the reasons why I'm really socially traumatized. Just one of the reasons, though. There's a lot of reasons for that. But truly, it's one of the conscious and unconscious reasons, that my work has been kept in hiding. So let me say that I've experienced stalking on a physical, like human level, and also on the psychic plane. Um, I think that's important to talk about, and it's a deep topic that I can't get fully into on a YouTube video. But when you're an awakened ancestral healer, the psychic stalking is just as destabilizing for me, as experiencing it on a human level. It has very similar impacts, right? It limits your freedom, your movement. It exasperates health issues. It makes you live really small. Um, it makes you have to, put away parts of yourself that are so inherent to who you are, but you have to put them away. It makes you feel like you're going bonkers. Like, is it my fault? Like, am I just not being clear enough? Have I not explained this properly enough? And that causes psychological injury, at least for me, because my instinct is to over explain and over teach, trying to get them to understand my boundary, why it's legitimate. And that causes the psychological injury for me because, like, I'm piling way too many things onto my brain when no should have just been enough. Psychic stalking has literally had a physical impact on me. I'm a very powerful oracle. I'm a very powerful energy healer, walker of dimensions, right? I remember once the energy of a community member came into my space while I was sleeping and literally kicked me in the solar plexus as retaliation for why I hadn't replied to their DM on social media. And I literally felt it physically. Like, that's how open my psychic senses are. They kicked me, this spirit, and I felt it physically. Okay? So, like, how do you get support for something like that without people thinking you're crazy or making things up? How do you even, like, that's not something I can, like, ask for accountability around. You know what I mean? Like, what people are doing with their spirits. Anyway, longer conversation. And a lot of spiritual people might say, well, that's your problem, Shanga. Like, your energy healing and protection wasn't strong enough. What's wrong with your magic? And what aren't you doing well enough? That these unwanted guests are traveling through your psychic space. Now, if you know me at all, I am the last person to deny personal responsibility in this spiritual healing work. In fact, that bugs the fuck out of me when people deny their personal responsibility and their personal power in this. But, like, that shit is way too much of an individualized response that doesn't understand survivor wisdom, survivor technology, doesn't have a full understanding of the spiritual politics around consent within a context of rape culture. It is not easy on any level to create boundaries with someone who is intent on doing whatever they want, regardless of how clearly you say no. Now, that said, I have journeyed really deeply over the years with this energy, and I've learned a lot about like the ongoing and ever evolving spell work that can actually be effective when you're this kind of a survivor. And so I wanted to offer some preliminary thoughts on that kind of spell work, and hope it, it's an offering for others who might have, might be experiencing similar violence, or have in the past. Okay? So when we lean into survivor technology, you remember that one, it's not your fault if you struggle to find the right spell work or energetic protection for this kind of thing. And two, it's really hard to figure it out on your own because survivors and thus survivor spell work cannot thrive in isolation. So I look at this energy that feels very entitled, right? To my intimacy, to my friendship, my time, my company, my physical space. When I zoom out, what I see is an addiction to my medicine, an addiction to my inherent ancestral artistry that I've carried and expressed since I was a child. You might even say it's an addiction to my inherent fame, right? So this energy, it sees something in me that is meant for the world, and it wants to keep it all for itself. To me, that means that this is something that is so disconnected from all the things that truly belong to them, that they decided that I'm going to be their endless supply. And this is the basis of a lot of the extraction, the abuse, the appropriation that we find in spiritual spaces and activist spaces. Okay? But so seeing this dynamic and what this energy is going through as an addiction helps me come back to myself and sort of, I don't know, there's just something that lands and grounds me when I know that, when I remember that. It illuminates direction for the appropriate kind of spell work, because you can't just make an addiction stop, right? Like, people don't and can't just stop their addictions. In order to heal, transmute, and recover from addiction, you need a healing technology that understands addiction, and that specifically helps someone who wants to heal from it heal. Right? And so on the other side, the spell work is then like, what is the ongoing healing work that I need to do as a survivor of someone's addiction? There's a whole world and understanding, like, what does that mean for me? What is it, I'm being treated like an object of someone's addiction. Like, what has that created in me? What are the stories, the narratives, the energetics, the relationship contracts, like all of that kind of stuff. Explore that world, right? And then how, you'll be able to develop your spiritual strategies accordingly. So for me, what, ongoing stalking has done in my life, right? It has bittered me, right? Like, it's pushed me into extreme isolation. It's ramped up this narrative that I carry that's like, if I put myself out there, if I let myself be seen more, that's the only thing I'm ever going to be met with. I'm never going to have what I want. Like, if I put myself out there, I'm always going to be met with this extraction. At the same time now, the spirit of my medicine is ramping up. It's saying, you can't survive here in isolation in the underground anymore. I am medicine that needs to be shared more widely with the people. And my medicine is telling me, like, we're good. Okay. Like, you're safe to make the right connections now. But as that medicine is ramping up and the possibilities of true safety and freedom in my relationships are like right there, that antagonist is like right at that door, you know? Like I'm just wanting to walk out that door, but that antagonist is sitting right next to that door. And it's really loud and it's ramping up. Okay? And so I see this as a collective kind of pattern for a lot of us who have medicine right now that is wanting to rise, wanting to give, wanting to express itself, wanting to have something, and the antagonist is ramping up at the same time and is telling us all the reasons and realities, of why I'm not safe out in the world. But so let's talk about the larger picture of where we are in this time and space and dimension and history, herstory, themstory. This energy that doesn't listen to you when you say no, no matter how clearly and forcefully you say no. What does that sound like to you? Okay, the ramping up of stalking, violence, rape culture in the realms of intimacy is absolutely connected to the ramping up of wounded, violent ancestral energy behind, say, Israel's continued assault on Gaza, the ramping up of militarized violence in places like Congo, Sudan, hotspots that are bearing the worst of our colonial reality. So, in my mind, what it is a spirit of extraction culture and rape culture. And when it happens in the intimate realm, it's a fractal of the larger militarized realm, right? And so it's just ramping up in every place. And as that happens, there's a specific attack right now against artists who work, love, and create in the realm of lineage storytelling, especially survivor storytelling, of which that's my specialty, right? That's my medicine. My medicine is I tell stories about who I love and how I love them, who I grieve and how I grieve them. And when I tell stories, I tell them as an embodied expression of my queer ancestors, my transcestors, my sex working ancestors, my erotic artistry, and with my survival ancestral technologies. It is so powerful and transformative. It is a huge threat to the spirit of genocide. And part of what our freedom-oriented ancestors are trying to uncover in us right now is an upgraded definition about what is the role of artists, storytellers, healers, and teachers in this current genocidal milieu. What's our role? A lot of people are asking that question. Okay, so here's what we got for you in the Ancestors Writers Room. The role of the ancestral artist is to provide an artistic self-expression, a lineage storytelling that provides an energy healing sorely needed by the planet right now. The call is for you to create in deep, sincere, heartfelt collaboration with your inner Earth Steward ancestors who exist in sincere, heartfelt solidarity with the big freedom movements of our time, and in solidarity with the communities who are experiencing the brunt of this violence. It's our role to have our art feed and be fed in whatever ways our ancestors are guiding us, even if it seems confusing or selfish or like it's not important. It is so much more important than any of us realize. Through our art and storytelling magic, we are carriers of an energy healing that can remember and rebirth our way out of this mess. Especially when your medicine is erotic survivor ancestral wisdom. We are meant to create ritual through our art. We are meant to return home to the devotion of ceremonial storytelling and artistic expression. We are meant to give that art back to our ancestors, our lineage, and then they have the power to spread that healing through the wood wide web, the trees, the water, and take it to the places on the planet that need it the most. We are, by and large, not in collective practice of encouraging each other to invest in this work and really go for it. We are not in enough collective practice to protect those of us who are on the front lines of this spiritual warrior work. Because it is that. We need so much more understanding, celebration, collective communion, conversation, and collaboration. And that's where our most powerful spell work will emerge. For us to truly be in solidarity, I believe that we need to have much more safety and protection to be loved out loud in public. And by that I really mean our ancestral wisdom technologies, our love for our ancestors, our love for this planet. I want way more public love and adoration for those of us who are doing this ancestor veneration work, and to the ancestors who give so much and make it possible. They are our wealth. And as long as we don't support a movement that is invested in turning to them, we're sitting on our true power. This is the work that carries the key cards and the codes to get us out of this never-ending time loop of crisis and humanitarian aid that is sitting in a savior complex. To fall in love more and more with our spiritual gifts and technologies is what, we need to invest in order to divest more from our complicity and our reliance on capitalist structures. Because what we're building together is truly sovereign and truly in collaboration with how the earth herself wants to heal. And it's not a depoliticized spirituality, it's a politicized one. That is what we need in order to ensure that we transform into the world that we want and not just survive the world that we don't want. But okay. Let's bring it back to some practicalities when it comes to stalking. Like, really, how do I get a bitch to leave me alone? Right? One thing that I can offer in the space of a YouTube video for spell work. See what happens if you don't think of your spell work as interacting with any one specific person. Zoom out and look at your relationship to an entire paradigm that wants to collapse and rebirth. Okay, so we're in the middle of a shifting paradigm between Pluto and Capricorn and Pluto and Aquarius. So we're closing big chapters, big eras, and moving into a new one. So think about this moment, the rest of this year really, of closing a huge chapter from the last 15 years. What are the vows of poverty in that paradigm that you no longer need to be chained by? What are the relationship contracts that are stale and moldy that you can clear and lay to rest? Is there soul level trauma in that paradigm that needs a closure ritual? What were your values, your interests, your principles, your priorities in the last paradigm? What isn't true anymore? What's your focus now versus then? What did you think was immovable in the last paradigm that you know now is a lie? Most importantly, who is your antagonist in the old paradigm? Who is the villain? Who always showed up for a fight? Every time you hit a wall, it's like, oh, it's you again. Think about it as a spirit or a character, even if you're like, oh yeah, it shows up as a person in your life. No, think about even in that person, what's the spirit in them that is antagonizing you? So the last part of this episode that I just released ends on a cliffhanger, if you listen to it. And I recommend, if you haven't listened to it, go and listen to it after this. I'll put the link in the show notes. But after, going through this entire journey with the Wicked Witches on each direction and a Toronto Pride party, as it were, I end up in the center at the end, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to have a confrontation with the Wizard of Oz now. I have to have a confrontation with God, or at least a worthy antagonist. And then I sense someone coming. And then there's a tornado of mist, of ether becoming matter, becoming human. And I say, oh shit, I know her. I don't like her. So we end on a cliffhanger. And, the moment that I see this antagonist in front of me. Okay, so I ended it like that, kind of speaking to my experience in multiverse history, where for lifetimes and lifetimes, I've had the same antagonist, same fucking story, same fucking villain, same like relationship dynamic playing over and over again, like clockwork. But this is a period of time. We're moving into an era where in the next chapter, that energy that has been antagonizing us for galactic lifetimes, in the next chapter, they don't even exist. Okay? They're not even a side character. They're obsolete. They're irrelevant. So that's why that antagonist in the personal realm and the collective realm is ramping up so hard right now. It just doesn't want to die. It knows it doesn't even have a role to play in the next chapter. Big picture, we're talking about coloniality, capitalism, rape culture, extraction culture. This has been our global antagonist for so long. The antagonist of our beloved planet. And we got so used to thinking it would always be this way, right? Even while we were fighting against it, we thought that I'll always have to fight against it. But no, now our inner ancestral artists are actually so determined to enter a timeline by any means necessary to deliver the medicine and share it amongst the people, amongst all of nature, that will co-create a world where that antagonist doesn't even exist. So right now we're in the middle of it. It's scared. It's throwing a temper tantrum. It doesn't want to die. And to be clear, when I say this thing, it's inevitable that it's going to die. I don't mean, if you're experiencing violence from a particular person, I don't mean they're going to die. I mean the spirit of extraction itself that has lodged itself inside so many people has to die, and it's already dying. And, we're here as death doulas and death surgeons. Put a pin in that because we're going to talk about the difference between those two things on another video. But so the spell work, I would say, get to know who this particular antagonist is for you. Ask your guides for help in releasing yourself from this old paradigm and this old antagonist. The spell work is really about allowing yourself to change, to step more fully into a phase of life that carries an ecosystem where that antagonist can't breathe, can't function, it can't even see you. Intuitively, we think this thing is ramping up, I gotta hide in the place that I've always been in order to stay safe. But that's where it lives. That's where it knows you. Allowing yourself to move on to the next chapter, whatever that is for you, even if it's unknown for you, as it is for me. Like, that's where the freedom is, and that's where it's scary to do that. There's a lot of grief there, right? But that is where, in my opinion, the more powerful global solidarity is as well. And, if you do listen to my podcast episode, you'll find, like, at the bottom of everything is just, it's a ceremony for grief and for love. It's for you, the beautiful person, the incredible person you were for the last 15 years and beyond, for everything that has made you who you are today. It's for the loved ones that you've lost. It's for the future that you dream of. It's for all your beloved relations. That's the ritual, the grief ritual that wants to come through and help you into this next phase. Okay, so that said, I wanted to just end here by following up on my little outro message that I left in my birthday episode, where I said that I had, been doing a lot of soul searching on the struggles that I've been having in getting my work out there more, the financial stress that comes with that, and I'm committed to changing things up so that my work can find more success and so my medicine can reach more of the world. There is honestly so much wisdom that my ancestors' writers' room channels through me every day, and sometimes it's overwhelming in trying to harness everything and then create offerings and do everything myself, and it's just not working. I need more collaboration. So, what I'm putting out there now is we are available. The Traveling Ancestors Writers Room, available for bookings. So, I'm looking for dreamy, like spirited co producers, co hosts, individuals, or collectives who want to host the Ancestors Writers Room and moi for ancestral artist retreats, for one off classes, for collective artistic conjuring portals. I'm basically looking for anyone who, has connections to communities who are ready and longing to dive in and invest in what I have to offer so that I can take some of that producing load off and just like show up and do what I do best and deliver something that I think a lot of people are looking for and a lot of people would appreciate. Um, so, for example, this here topic, I have an offering that I call Trigger Warning: How to Cast a Banishing Spell. This is an ancestral artist retreat for survivors, memoir writers, lineage storytellers, especially those who work with material that is like inherently triggering, like, topics of survivorship and many other things. Um, so, yeah, this can be done in like a 3 day weekend retreat. It can be a 3 to 4 class spread out series. It works really well in the digital realm, like as like an online kind of thing. But this is where, for example, a space that I can share much more about my specific survivor technologies and like go deeper to the topic that we were, discussing today, around like the spell work, the energetic protections, the nuances on how I create the spell work around survivor protection. And it's a space where I can like guide folks to connect to your specific survivor technologies and collectively we can all help each other move more into an era of safety and freedom, especially because like this is truly a topic where individual spells are less effective than coming together in a collective space where we can birth something together with someone who knows what they're doing in terms of space holding, the ceremonial space holding, ceremonial storytelling, and the guidance around that. Um, and so, in a workshop like this, finally, I will also be able to guide us through artistic and creative techniques where we can really work creatively with this antagonist and transmute and banish our personal antagonists through our art and then send it back to the land so that it can also be a collective conjuring and spell work for the people of Gaza, for the people of Congo, for the people of Sudan, and for every part of our earth body and where she hurts. Okay, so that's one example of, what I could offer and looking for, folks who want to host me. And I also have so many different workshop series and retreats and topics that I could guide and offer. And I'm just like really willing to see where the wind blows me. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes to my new Book Me page. I have some ideas there on some different offerings, and I would really, really love people's support in sharing it. Please spread the word so that my work can find like its most dreamy collaborators. And if you know someone who might be a good fit, send it to them. Just send it out. I would really appreciate that. And just to note, I am not looking for unpaid or underpaid work. That's my antagonist. An energy that, just wants to take, and not give back. I need to heal from that big time. So I appreciate your support in advance for not sending me requests for unpaid work or or work that would just like put make my life harder, you know? My work is really deep and it deserves reciprocity. That said, I'm also really open to being surprised and considering ideas and offers that I wouldn't have thought of myself. It's an era of adventure I'm moving into. Can't help it. It's an astrological thing. So if you love my work and you see richness in a potential collaboration with me, and you want to offer me something unexpected out of left field, I'm super open to considering that. So please, basically, I'm saying shoot your shot. I'll leave it there for now. Check out all the linky links below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.